For many white people, the mere title of this book will cause resistance, because I am breaking a cardinal rule of individualism. I am generalizing. I am proceeding as if I could know anything about someone just because the person is white. Right now you may be thinking of all the ways that you are different from other white people, and that if I just knew how you had come to this country, or were close to these people, grew up in this neighborhood, endured this struggle, or had this experience, then I would know that you were different, that you were not racist. I've witnessed this common reflex countless times in my work. For example, I recently gave a talk to a group of about 200 employees. There were no more than 5 people of color in their organization, and of these 5, only 2 were African American. Over and over, I emphasized the importance of white people having racial humility and of not exempting ourselves from the unavoidable dynamics of racism. As soon as I was done speaking, a line of white people formed, ostensibly to ask me questions, but more typically, to reiterate the same opinions on race they held when they had entered the room. The first in line was a white man who explained that he was Italian American, and that Italians were once considered black and discriminated against. So didn't I think that white people experience racism too? That he could be in that overwhelmingly white room of coworkers and exempt himself from an examination of his whiteness because Italians were once discriminated against is an all too common example of individualism. A more fruitful form of engagement, because it expands rather than protects his current worldview, would have been to consider how Italian Americans were able to become white, and how that assimilation has shaped his experiences in the present as a white man. His claims did not illustrate that he was different from other white people when it comes to race. I can predict that many readers will make similar claims of exception, precisely because we are products of our culture, not separate from it. As a sociologist, I am quite comfortable generalizing. Social life is patterned and predictable in measurable ways. But I understand that my generalizations may cause some defensiveness for the white people about whom I am generalizing, given how cherished the ideology of individualism is in our culture. There are, of course, exceptions, but patterns are recognized as such precisely because they are recurring and predictable. We cannot understand modern forms of racism if we cannot or will not explore patterns of group behavior and their effects on individuals. I ask readers to make the specific adjustments they think are necessary to their situation, rather than reject the evidence entirely. For example, perhaps you grew up in poverty, or are an Ashkenazi Jew of European heritage, or were raised in a military family. Perhaps you grew up in Canada, Hawaii, or Germany, or had people of color in your family. None of these situations exempts you from the forces of racism, because no aspect of society is outside of these forces. Rather than use what you see as unique about yourself as an exemption from further examination, a more fruitful approach would be to ask yourself, I am white, and I have had X experience. How did X shape me as a result of also being white? Setting aside your sense of uniqueness is a critical skill that will allow you to see the big picture of the society in which we live. Individualism will not. For now, try to let go of your individual narrative and grapple with the collective messages we all receive as members of a larger shared culture. Work to see how these messages have shaped your life, rather than use some aspect of your story to excuse yourself from their impact.